Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, beta, what I want to go ahead and do in this session is the back questions of AMG. So, all of you would be aware that these back questions are very, very difficult and they require a lot of thinking, right? So, if you just go ahead and you realize this is chapter 17, but a question number 20, very, very difficult question. I can call it as high level question. And AMG has um, this I can say abbreviation that AMG uses. So you will realize कि यहाँ पर इन्होंने लिखा हुआ है spillover effects के आगे C. So A, B, C are the levels that they give to the questions, right? And C means a hard question. B means medium and A means easy. So this is a hard level question that is there in this book. This is question number 20. And I want to just discuss this question with you today. Now, before we start discussing this question, so you need to go ahead and understand that this question actually goes ahead and uses something called as game theory. This question uses something called as game theory. Now, since you may not have done game theory till now, it may seem to you that how will you solve this question अगर game theory ही कभी नहीं पढ़ा तो how are you going to go ahead and how are you going to take this question, right? So I understand you may not know game theory and you may not know what is a simultaneous game and what is a sequential game. I will try my best to still explain to you how to do this question. But let's see how much we get through, huh? Because it uses game theory. Okay, let's try to understand. There are two sort of games. One is called as a sequential game and other is called as a simultaneous game. Right? One is called as a sequential game and other is called as a simultaneous game. When we talk about simultaneous games, it means that people go ahead and make a decision together. Let me give you an example. Just say you and your friend, you need to do a project together. Okay? You go back home, you decide how much hard work you will be putting. This friend goes back home and decides how much hard work this friend will be putting. They are deciding simultaneously. एक साथ अपने अपने घर पे decide कर रहे हैं कि कितना कितना hard work डालेंगे. That's a simultaneous game. The second kind of game that we have, that's called as a sequential game. In a sequential game, what happens is players make decision in a sequence. For example, this is player 1. इसी गेम को हम एक्सप्लेन कर देंगे इसमें. So this is player 1. He decides how much hard work he wants to do. And then player 1 को observe करने के बाद player 2 decides how much hard work player 2 wants to put in. So first player 1 puts the hard work. पहले player 1 decide करता है कि उसको कितना hard work डालना है. And then player 2 will put the hard work. Now, in such games, बस सुनते जाओ मेरे को एक बारी. In such games, whichever are sequential games, we follow the process of something which is known as backward induction. What do we follow, beta? We follow the process of backward induction. What is backward induction now? In backward induction, we first solve step 2. We go backward. हम उल्टा चलते हैं. So we first solve step 2. Then we go one step back and we solve for step 1. फिर हम step 1 solve करते हैं. So we first solve step 2 and we then solve step 1. Am I clear with this? ये बात clear हुई? ठीक है. अब क्वेश्चन को देखो एक बारी जरा. I know this may seem a bit difficult if you haven't done game theory, but nevertheless हम इस क्वेश्चन को एक बारी solve करने की कोशिश करते हैं. Let's try to handle this question. Let's read it out, beta. Read करो जरा. Firms within an industry can experience spillover effects of of investing in new technologies. Many competing industries have firms concentrated in one region or city where workers at competing firms may interact with each other, leading to the exchange of ideas and this positive externality. Consider two firms that face inverse demand curve. This is the inverse demand function. Each firm faces the total cost. You're given this total cost function, where original marginal cost of production is 4 can be reduced by investing x1 and also decreases by a portion of its rival investment at the rate of 0.25 xj. थोड़ा समझने की कोशिश करो एक बार क्वेश्चन को. What the question is saying? The question is going ahead and saying कि imagine कि you are having a particular cost. आपको कोई output produce करने की एक particular cost लगती है, बट फिर आप कोई R&D करते हो, आप कुछ रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट करते हो, एंड व्हेन यू डू दिस R&D, उस R&D की वजह से यू आर एबल टू लोअर योर कॉस्ट, आपकी कॉस्ट रिड्यूस हो जा रही है. बट देयर आर सम स्पिल ओवर इफेक्ट्स ऑल्सो, स्पिल ओवर इफेक्ट्स. और ये स्पिल ओवर इफेक्ट्स क्या हैं बच्चे? व्हाट आर दीज स्पिल ओवर इफेक्ट्स? These spillover effects basically go ahead and say that if any other firm will do research and development, अगर कोई और firm R&D कर रहा है, तो when this other firm will do R&D ना, उसकी वजह से भी your cost can fall because you will just learn to do that from the other firm. There will be some spillover effects. So because of the other firm also your cost can fall. Definitely your cost can fall when you are doing R&D. But because of the other firm also your cost can fall. So this is what it is saying. देखो अब जरा ध्यान से try to look into the cost function बेटा. This is your cost function. अब इसको interpret करना will be much easier. Try to see this thing. So what is your cost function now बेटा? Your cost function basically goes ahead and says it is going to be 4. ये तो actual cost थी. This is what it is saying, that the original marginal cost is $4, but it is lowered. ये reduce हो गई. कितने से बच्चे? Minus xi. ये xi है जो हमने R&D में लगाया, और because I invested in R&D, my cost is lowering. Minus 0.25 xj. माने if any other firm is also investing, अगर कोई और firm R&D कर रही है, तो उसके स्पिलओवर इफेक्ट की वजह से मेरी कॉस्ट लोअर हो रही है, 4 से कम हो रही है. आई एम सब्ट्रैक्टिंग समथिंग फ्रॉम पर यूनिट कॉस्ट इनटू द यूनिट्स प्रोड्यूस्ड. ये तो पर यूनिट कॉस्ट है बच्चे. दिस इज पर यूनिट कॉस्ट, एंड पर यूनिट कॉस्ट इनटू द नंबर ऑफ यूनिट्स. So this will be my new cost. Now try to see this thing. Plus 0.5 xi square. Because you are investing in R&D, so okay, your per unit cost is falling, but there will be some cost you have to incur for that R&D. Now, R&D research and development करने के लिए you may have to hire some employees. You may have to go ahead and open some place where they will come and they will sit. You may have to do 10 things for that R&D. So that is the cost that you have to incur. So plus that cost that you are incurring on R&D, which is 0.5 xi square. Am I making sense? Is this total cost function now clear? This is what this question is saying. ठीक है, that you are going ahead and you are investing some money. आपने अपना कुछ पैसा लगाया है, and when you are going ahead and you are investing that money, because of that the per unit cost is falling. But if the other firm is also investing some money, अगर दूसरा कोई firm है जो R&D में invest कर रहा है पैसा, then because of that also your cost will fall. Okay, now try to read this out beta. Assume that in the first stage every firm I invest xi dollar in R&D. In the second stage every firm observes R&D and the cost function and then compete in quantity. Okay, now try to understand. ध्यान से सुनना. Beta, stage 1. In stage 1 every firm is going ahead and every firm is investing in research and development in R&D. Stage 2, आफ्टर द फर्म्स हैव इन्वेस्टेड देयर मनी इन R&D, एक बार उन्होंने रिसर्च एंड डेवलपमेंट में पैसा लगा दिया, आफ्टर द फर्म्स हैव इन्वेस्टेड देयर मनी इन R&D, then they are going ahead and they are determining the equilibrium quantities to sell. तो बेटा दिस इज अ टू स्टेज प्रोसेस, ये एक टू स्टेज प्रोसेस हो गया. And whenever you will have a two-stage process, what is it that I have just told you? That you will follow the process of backward induction. You will follow the process of backward induction. समझे बात को? तो you will go ahead and you will follow the process of backward induction. And what will you do in backward induction, beta? In backward induction, you will first solve stage 2. पहले आप stage 2 solve करोगे. And after solving stage 2, you will go towards stage 1 and solve for stage 1. उसके बाद आप stage 1 को solve करो. Am I clear? Beta, stage 2 is what? In stage 2, firms have to decide how much quantities they want to sell. कितना output वो बेचना चाहती हैं. How much quantities they want to sell. That is what they will determine. So while determining how much quantities to sell, जब ये determine करना है कि कितना quantities बेचना है, firms will hold R&D constant. वो XI XJ को constant hold करें. ठीक है, अब थोड़ा सा आगे समझते हैं. Let us go ahead and let us try to write the profit function of the firm. So profit function of firm 1 can be written as total revenue minus total cost of firm 1. Beta, what is going to be total revenue of firm 1? Let us try to go ahead and understand this thing. So price is given to me, देखो ध्यान से, price is given to me as 10 minus Q1 minus Q2, है ना? तो price को लिख लेते हैं हम. The price function will be 10 minus Q1 minus Q2 price into quantity of firm 1, क्योंकि total revenue is price into quantity. Right? So price into quantity. Let me write Q1 here. Minus total cost. और total cost क्या है firm 1 का बेटा? The total cost of firm 1 is this. 4 minus XI को X1 कर देंगे because it is firm 1. Minus 0.25 X2. Let me just write this down. Minus 4 minus X1 minus 0.25 X2 into Q1, right? I'm just writing the cost function. और क्या है cost function में बेटा? If you just realize, तो in the cost function I have plus 0.5 xi square, तो plus 0.5 x1 square. ये पूरा cost function है. Try to understand. तो how can I go ahead and how can I write this cost function beta? 10 minus Q1 minus Q2 into Q1 minus 4 minus X1 minus 0.25 X2 into Q1 minus 0.5 X1 square. This will be profit function of firm 1. देखो, if I just look into this backward induction process, तो हमें reverse चलना होता है. So I need to do stage 2 first. माने I need to determine the quantity. तो I need to go ahead and maximize the profit of the firm. मुझे firm के profit को maximize करना होगा subject to the quantities, with respect to the quantities, because I have to determine the quantity. तो जो भी determine करना होगा उसके respect में ही I can differentiate. I must not differentiate with respect to anything else, right? तो let me just go ahead and do that बेटा. तो if I just differentiate this profit function with respect to Q1, क्या मिल जाएगा? So 10 into Q1. अच्छा, एक step में बीच में I will just do the step in between. So this will be 10 Q1 minus Q1 square minus Q1 Q2 minus 4 Q1 plus X1 Q1 plus 0.25 X2 Q1 minus 0.5 X1 square. I've just opened this up so that you find this easy. ठीक है, now differentiate. तो 10 minus 2q1 minus q2 minus 4 plus x1 plus 0.5 x2 equal to 0. I am differentiating this with respect to q1. So what will I get, beta? 10 minus 4 is 6 minus 2q1 minus q2 plus x1 plus 0.25 x2 is equal to 0. So from here बेटा मेरे को q1 का वैल्यू आ जाएगा 6 minus q2 plus x1 plus 0.25 x2 by 2. This will be the value of q1. ये q1 का वैल्यू आ जाएगा in terms of q2. अच्छा, tell me something. फर्म 1 एंड फर्म 2 का जो प्रॉफिट फंक्शन है वो बहुत सिमिलर दिखेगा. इट विल बी वेरी सिमेट्रिक. इफ एनीवन टेल्स मी हाउ टू रिमूव दीज बलून्स फ्रॉम Zoom when I am trying to take these classes, I'm seriously going to give you a reward. I really want to know how to remove these balloons here. Okay, just tell me how to do this from the settings. Okay, तो now firm 1 and firm 2 will have symmetric profit function. जैसा firm 1 का दिख रहा था, हर जगह q1 की जगह q2 and x1 की जगह x2 होगा, तो firm 2 का profit function बन जाएगा. It is going to be symmetric, right beta? So if this is going to be symmetric, so on this line what I can go ahead and do now, I can say that on similar lines q2 will look as 6 minus q1 plus x2 plus 0.25 x1 by 2. क्योंकि firm 1 and firm 2 are symmetric in nature. Symmetric means they have very similar profit function. If I were to write the profit function of firm 2 now, so it would have been total revenue, that means price, into firm 2's quantity minus its cost function. तो यहाँ पे x2 हो जाता minus 0.25 x1 into q2 plus 0.5 x2 square. It would have been very similar. So since it would have been similar, I can just go ahead and I can just write a similar quantity function. Everywhere q1 will be replaced with q2, x1 will be replaced with x2 and done. And that will be my function. Am I clear with that, beta? Is that making some sense? If that is making sense, so what I can do now, I can solve these quantities simultaneously. मैं एक साथ इनको solve कर सकती हूँ. कैसे? ये जो भी q2 का वैल्यू है, I can plug that value of q2 here. मैं इसको यहाँ पे डालता हूँ. I will just put that here. So I will get q1 is equal to 6 minus, instead of q2 I will write 6 minus q1 plus x2 plus 0.25 x1 by 2 plus x1 plus 0.25 x2 by 2. This 2 can go on the other side. I will get 2q1 is equal to 6 minus q1 plus x2 plus 0.25 x1 by 2 plus x1 plus 0.25 x2. I can just solve this. So I will just take 2 common beta. So this will get here and here. So क्या आ जाएगा? I will get 12 minus 6 plus q1 minus x2 minus 0.25 x1 plus 2x1 plus 0.5 x2, and this will be 2q1, right? So I will get 4q1 minus q1 is equal to 6. See, 2x1 minus 0.25 x1 will be 1.75 x1. Minus x2 plus 0.5 x2 will be minus 0.5 x2, right? So I will get 3q1 is equal to 6 plus 1.75 x1 minus 0.5 x2. And from here, I will get the value of q1 as this. I understand. This is a very difficult and clumsy question. I am not expecting such difficult questions to be asked in exam, but you can practice them if you have time. Only if you have time, go ahead and practice them. Otherwise, I am not expecting you to know these kind of questions. They are difficult, I understand. ठीक है बेटा. So what has happened is we have got the value of Q1 and Q2 from here. Try to understand कि अभी हमने stage 2 solve किया है. We have gone ahead and we have done this stage 2. मतलब हमने Q1 star and Q2 star निकाला है. Now we have to solve stage 1. And stage 1 is what beta? In which we want to understand the R&D. In which we want to understand what will be x1 star and x2 star. उसका value निकालना होगा. We want to find out x1 star and x2 star. So what will I do now, beta? So as I told you that now I want to go ahead and I want to put this Q1 and Q2 back in my profit function. तो मेरा पूरा का पूरा profit function x1, x2 के terms में हो जाएगा. And then I will go ahead and I will solve for these x1 and x2s. Okay, let me start now. So now what I will do now, so my profit function, if I just write the profit function of firm 1, एक बार यहाँ पे आ जाते हैं. This is the profit function of firm 1 beta. I will just copy it from here. I am just taking this profit function. Copy. Fingers crossed. Such difficult questions should not be asked in exam. Paste. This is the profit function of firm 1, right? Now, once you have found out this, यहाँ पे ना Q1, Q2 का value हम यहाँ से डाल देंगे. So this will become 10. Q1 की जगह पे बेटा I will go ahead and I will write down this thing. 6 plus 1.75 x1 minus 0.5 x2 by 3 minus Q1 square. So 6 plus 1.75 x1 minus 0.5 x2 by 3 whole square minus Q1 6 plus 1.75 x1 minus 0.5 x2 by 3 into Q2. देखो यहाँ पे I am just plugging here into Q2. 6 plus 1.75 x2 minus 0.5 x1 by 3. फिर minus 4 q1. तो देखो 10 q1 minus 4 q1 को 6 q1 मान सकते हैं. तो rather than writing it like this ना मैं इसको यहाँ पे 6 कर देती हूँ. This would be 6. तो यहाँ पे हम सीधा इसको 6 कर रहे हैं. I'm just doing this as 6 here. Right? Plus x1 into 6 plus 1.75 x1 minus 0.5 x2 by 3 plus 0.25 x2 into 6 plus 1.75 x1 minus 0.5 x2 by 3 minus 0.5 x1 square. So your entire profit function is now a function of x1 and x2. Clear? Can you see this? Now, firm 1 can only decide the amount of R&D it wants to do. Firm 1 के हाथ में क्या है कि मैं कितना R&D करना चाहता हूँ. How much R&D I want to do. So in order to understand how much R&D I want to do, firm 1 can maximize its profit with respect to x1. समझे? Firm 1 can maximize its profit with respect to x1. So if I just differentiate this with respect to x1 beta, what will I get? Differentiation of this will become 6, 1.75 by 3 minus 2 into this entire function into 1.75 by 3 minus, यहाँ पे you need to use the product rule. Are you understanding this? So you need to use the product rule. So differentiation of first function into second as it is plus first function as it is into differentiation of the second function. It will become very tedious, beta. I am telling you. Plus 6 plus 1.75 into 2x1 minus 0.5 x2 by 3 plus 0.25 x2 into 1.75 by 3 minus 2 into 0.51 x1 equal to 0. ये आपका ऐसा कुछ आ जाएगा. अच्छा, this is the differentiation. जब आप इसको करोगे, when you will be solving this out, you will get x1 as a function of x2. I am not doing this, but I am just leaving it up to you, right? I will just solve, if you want, just solve it and show it to me. You will get x1 as a function of x2. देखो यहाँ पे x1 और x2 ही तो आ रहे हैं. So this is when you tried to maximize the profit of firm 1 with respect to x1. अच्छा, on similar basis, because the profit functions are symmetric, तो जो भी यहां पर आया होगा उसी को when you will replace x1 with x2 and x2 with x1, you will get another function x2 as a function of x1. और इन दो इक्वेशंस को साइमल्टेनियसली सॉल्व करके you will get the value of x1 and x2. That will be the value of x1 and x2. ठीक है, I am leaving that to you. I hope you would be able to solve this. I have just solved this profit function. यहां से आपको x1 as a function of x2 मिलेगा. Firm 2 के लिए you just have to replace x2 with x1 and x1 with x2. You will get two equations. You need to just solve these two equations. जैसे हमने ऊपर solve की थी ना, two equations आया था हमारे पास, q1 as a function of q2, q2 as a function of q1. We solved them simultaneously. तो ही तो हमें q1 q2 का वैल्यू मिला था. Similarly, now you will get x1 as a function of x2, x2 as a function of x1. When you will be solving them simultaneously, आपको एक final x1 star and x2 star मिलेगा. That will be the value of the amount of research that firm should be doing. So if you read out the first question here, try to read this bit up. If firms act competitively, how much each firm produces and how much of the cost reducing technology they will invest in. माने you need to find Q1, Q2, X1, X2. So you will be able to go ahead and get the value of X1, X2. Am I clear? और वो X1, X2 निकल गया, तो you can just put those X1, X2 here in this function. तो जब वो आप X1, X2 डालोगे यहाँ पर, so you will get the value of Q1, Q2 also. So homework, just try to find that final value of X1, X2, and show it to me. Discuss how knowledge spillover affects an investment in the new technology. In other words, how does firm 2's investment X2 will affect firm 1's decision on output and investment compared to if they were to act cooperatively. Okay. Now, this is a typical question of externality. देखो, usually, बहुत ध्यान से समझो, बहुत easy है second part इसका. So try to understand, देखो, whether it is, देखो, when I talk about negative externality ना, and suppose वही same example लेते हैं, that firm 1 is polluting the river and firm 2 is affected. So when you take the case of negative externality, there is always overproduction. So if you bring the two firms together, मतलब if you collaborate them, if you bring them together, आप उनको एक firm बना दो, तो now firm 1 understands that I am affecting my own firm only because they cooperate, they come together. So it reduces its production. The opposite is the case of positive externality. The opposite is the case of positive externality. In positive externality, what happens? That firm A is underproducing. क्योंकि वो सिर्फ अपने हिसाब से प्रोड्यूस करती है. It does not think that it is affecting the other firm positively. So it will only produce according to itself. But when you will bring them together under one roof, आप उनको एक साथ ले आओगे, then it knows that when it will do more R&D, it is increasing the productivity of its own firm. B भी तो वही अपना ही firm है, अब एक साथ ही हैं, हम एक ही firm है, we are one firm. So when I will increase R&D, I will lower the cost of my own firm only. So it will always increase the amount I will invest in R&D. Because now you have brought me together. Are you understanding this? So under the positive externality, cooperation always goes ahead and it leads to increase in production, increased consumption. And under negative externality, cooperation always leads to reduction in production, reduction in consumption, right? So this is it. It was an excellent question, but a very, very difficult one. So I hope that you will be able to solve this from here. Do show me your answers, beta, so that I can check that you have done it correctly. Okay. So this was question number 20 of your book AMG Back Questions we are discussing. Last question of your chapter externality, and it's an important one. Okay. Thank you.